Hello, I'm Kirk Strum, Superintendent of Visalia Unified, and I'm pleased to be here today with Christina Gutierrez, who's our Public Information Officer, to spend some time to talk a little bit about our board meeting. And each month we're going to share a little bit of some of the information that was shared at the board meeting and how that impacts our schools. So from the boardroom to the classroom, really bringing some of those information reports to life and what that means for those of us in Visalia Unified, our families and our community and our students.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. I know that we've been kind of talking about doing a series like this for quite a bit, and so I'm excited to kick it off. And at the last board meeting that we had, we talked a little bit about our Launch Ready efforts. We have a Launch Ready campaign every year, and so can you talk to us a little bit about how that campaign comes about and what are the pieces that some of our families will be seeing here shortly?
Some of the information we shared in that report, and we should mention that all of our board meetings are recorded and they're posted on our website, and so if someone wants to see the information or the documents, or the formal presentation, they can certainly find all of that on our website. But when it comes to being ready for back to school and Launch Ready, what they'll see is a little bit about the summer trainings that happened. Our staff is amazing, put in a lot of hours in summer school, training for themselves, and getting ready to launch the school year. We have a new math program for our elementary and middle school students, K through 8, so we're excited about that. And also, we talked a little bit about the great programs we had over the summer. About 2,000 plus students participating in events throughout the summer. And also talked a little bit about if you need any supplies or if you need anything to help get ready for school. We have an amazing Family Community Resource Center that families can connect. But really, our schools are ready for our students and our families on August 13th. And so we'll have daily information coming to families through email and on social media about everything you need to know, from what time school starts to how to get to school, bus routes, student conduct, dress code, nutrition, everything to be ready for the best first day ever.
Also, at this board meeting, we had a really big item on the docket, right? So we had a resolution. Can you talk a little bit? And actually, before we get started, I'd actually like to invite our Chief Business Officer, Nathan Hernandez, to join the table to come talk to us and join us on this conversation.
So yes, thank you, Christina, and glad to have Nathan with us. And, we did have a very important item on our agenda. And again, I would just remind everyone that they can see the full presentation and can see all the supporting documents if they go online where our board meeting is posted. That was an item about our long-range facilities and a funding source, so essentially a bond referendum or a vote to authorize a bond referendum. And when over 70% of our buildings are 50 plus years old, there's a lot of work that needs to happen. And you reach a point where, patching a roof really becomes problematic, and we need to replace a roof, and portables and modernizing classrooms. And of course, as we all know, that costs money. And so how do we do those things? And so maybe, Nathan, if you could begin by just what is it that the board actually approved? And then we can talk a little bit about why that decision was reached.
Sure. So the board approved a resolution that has a project list, and it also has the language around what the bond would be, the amount of the bond, and how long it would be for. So what they really approved was giving our voters the opportunity to choose to invest in our schools.
Nathan, you mentioned some of the project lists. So when we think about what a bond would be used to do, this one specifically, what are some of the key items that this would support or work within the district that this would support?
Yeah, so what we shared was, as part of this kind of 4-year journey that we've been on, we started with an assessment of all of our facilities. So we walked through every classroom, opened every door, and what we found was about $600 million in needs for our schools. The priority or 1 and 2 priority needs over the next 5 years came out to about $182 million. So this bond will help us modernize and make the improvements that we need to address those priority needs.
And I know sometimes improvements may not necessarily be things people see. And when we modernize a classroom, and so far out of our bonds that measure A and E, we were able to modernize, maybe almost about half of our sites. And that really, one of the schools that we just almost complete now is Houston Elementary. And what are some of the things that a community or a student could expect when we modernize a site?
Yeah, so modernization includes things that, like you said, sometimes you don't always see, replacing electrical systems, plumbing, roofs, and these are those 50-year-old infrastructures that
Air conditioning.
Yes, we come in, we take carpet out and replace it with polished concrete. It's easier on maintenance. And we replace those old projectors with new monitors and TVs in the classroom. So there's a lot of upgrades like lighting and HVAC, like you mentioned, that just make the room more comfortable and make a better learning environment for students.
And I know sometimes too, in the case of Houston and other projects that have happened, that sometimes might include a new entrance or a new parent drop off for more room for our cars. We know that's really tight at some of our spaces, some of our sites for buses and cars. And so really some of that also depends on the unique needs of the site, I would imagine.
Right. Looking at things like our student drop-off areas, bus drop-off areas for student safety, all of those were addressed in our Houston project.
Now, I know one of the things you shared in the report, of course, we have, amazing teams, facilities, operation, custodial teams, and who do great work every day. And as we shared in the board report, we have maintained our facilities, but the number of roof leaks we've had and the number of portables that have reached their life span of usefulness, it's time for something different.
Yeah. Like you said, all of these systems have a useful life, and so many of those roofs and our portable classrooms, a lot of them were put down in the mid '90s when we were trying to address class size reduction and lower our class size in elementary schools, and a lot of those classrooms are still there. And so when they reach the end of their useful life, we can either continue to patch it and it costs more, or we replace it, and that's what we're looking to do.
Also along the way, as we shared in the board report, we've refinanced a couple of our existing bonds, which has actually saved the taxpayers some money.
Yeah, this bond would have those same kind of accountability requirements where we would have to have an independent oversight committee, a citizens oversight committee, annual audits, which you mentioned are also posted online. And as well, all the funds can only be spent on these projects that are approved by the voters.
So what you're saying, Nathan, is we can't just spend this money however we would like,
Yes.
right? There has to be some accountability to that.
And so we're always watching market and seeing, what interest rates are. And so through the two refundings that we've had, as well as some, we've had our district credit rating improved, we were able to save about $157 million compared to the original bond plans for both Measure E and Measure A.
That's pretty, and appreciate our board's financial oversight, and really just maintaining that emphasis on financial responsibility, fiduciary responsibilities. And when we think about this new bond and what we've done so far, and you mentioned the project list, what we shared in the board report, what would this mean for the taxpayer?
So this bond is projected to be about 4 cents per $100. And so on average, the assessed values for properties within Visalia, it would be about $120 a year, the assessment, or about $10 a month for the average homeowner.
Nathan, thank you for that information around, what the cost would be. And again, just want to emphasize, the action our board took was to let our community have a choice, right? Let our community look at the information and really make a decision as to what's best for our schools. Our schools are part of our community. So when we invest in our schools, it certainly impacts our community, and we know how important education is. And if you're at a site with a modernized space, the kids will tell you, right? There's a difference in a bathroom that's 70 plus years old to what a modernized bathroom looks like. And I heard loud and clear from the students around how important it is that they feel safe in those spaces.
So another item on our board agenda this last board meeting was about a contract with Mangini Associates for some architectural pieces at Mount Whitney. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so our board unanimously approved this agreement for an architect agreement for work that we're going to do at Mount Whitney. Really excited about this investment. This is an example of a Measure A investment when we talked about modernizing our high schools. Alongside the fact that we know that Mount Whitney has the fewest number of students of our high schools, and so there's great opportunity. As we think about the guiding principles that Nathan mentioned, that we discussed a little while ago about balancing enrollment and all of those things, this provides an opportunity to do that.
What is the actual impact of this vote that just happened on the campus itself?
Right. So the work that we are doing at Mount Whitney really involves several things. The piece that the board approved is simply to enter the architect agreement. And at that point, they will focus on the facility piece. Okay. They will focus on building a new academic building, which will include classrooms, office space, library, also replacement of the current building that includes the offices, and other site improvements. So that architect agreement simply begins the process to design, to do environmental studies, to look at the impact of and where the building would go. Yeah. That is all of that part.
And I imagine this isn't like an overnight type of situation. We're not going to have a new building next year, correct?
No, just the design process will take a while, and that will include opportunity for the community to see and provide input along with staff. Mm-hmm. And so any impact on the campus, they're going to know about and have the opportunity to weigh in on or advise and share their thoughts. I mentioned, in addition to the investment in the site, in other words, the physical building, there's going to be programmatic work that we do for the site as well. It's going to be the site of our first advanced learning magnet. More information to come to our community on that. We've shared that publicly.
You're teasing them now.
But we're really excited about that. And also, we'll be doing some boundary work later on this year as well. So all those pieces together really represent a large investment in Mount Whitney.
And I do want to say that, all of this work is done in collaboration with our school site and our community and our staff. So as this progresses, we'll definitely be having opportunities for everyone to weigh in and to provide some feedback and some comments. I'm going to pivot us a little bit for our next presenter. We're going to be hearing from our Executive Director of Student Services, Natalie Garza, who's going to be joining us to talk about our community schools and some budget changes that have happened with the governor and what that means for Visalia schools.
When we think about, again, the purpose of this podcast and video to help people understand what are these reports and what does it mean, I think a great place to start would be just what is a community school? People hear that, well, aren't our schools community schools? And of course, all our schools are part of the community. But this is actually a grant, Community Schools grant, that's funded through the state. And so, Natalie, if you could tell us a little bit about just what is the Community Schools grant and what does that mean for a school that receives that?
Sure. We have 7 community schools in our district right now, and it really encompasses the whole child approach to student learning. So wrapping around children and families to better serve them to make sure that they are achieving academically.
So what does this do? So does the school get extra money from the state, or what does this look like at the school site?
So the school site develops their vision for the program based on the needs of their particular site, and then there is grant money that comes to the school to support things like improved attendance incentives, intervention within the classrooms, parental engagement, and really looking at the needs of each school. A really big focus that we've worked on the 7 schools is improving mental health services in our schools.
Got it. So we have 7 currently. Now, for a teacher, a parent, community member, how are some of these decisions made, and are any of those groups part of those processes?
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. Our community is involved, so it is parents, administrators, support staff, teachers, and community members that serve on these committees to determine what's best for that school.
In your report, you took each of the 7 schools and shared a little bit about what their community schools grant goes for and some of the results.
Washington Elementary has demonstrated the impact of community schools through measurable results. Family partnerships, the Community School Resource Center, and targeted academic interventions have contributed to improved attendance and significant gains in both English language arts and mathematics.
What can we expect for the future, of community schools here in Visalia?
So they have extremely increased the budget for our community schools. So where we have 7 right now, we're looking at possibly adding 24 additional school sites to this program. And this is funding that will last through 2031 and may even continue beyond that. So it's really exciting opportunity for our schools to build their vision for their school and get to provide increased support at that level.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you
so much for joining us.
It was great to be here.
Well, thank you for listening and joining us today. And just a reminder, as we shared a lot of information, again, Christina, if I was listening and I want to know more about that, or maybe I even want to watch that presentation, where can I go?
All of our board meetings are posted online at VUSD.org. If you head on to VUSD.org, you'll be able to find links to all of those. Engage.VUSD is where you can find all of our short-term, long-term facilities planning information as well. So a couple of different ways to get this information, and hopefully this is just one more avenue where our families can get informed.
Thank you for being with us today. I believe in, I belong in, I am VUSD.